This is not a kindergarten. Each child has its own number and is guarded by a specially assigned person. This is the 5th year of the soldier plan. They have undergone strict and cruel training. Obeying orders is their highest criterion. Soldier Todd is one of them, and his grades have been excellent. If someone falls behind in training, they will be eliminated directly. On the shooting range where soldiers train with live ammunition, they cannot sympathize with the enemy and hostages. The names and information of soldiers who have been trained for 17 years will be printed on their faces for easy management. The soldiers headed by Todd have already experienced hundreds of battles. They won 60% of the battles. The Moscow incident and the hostages were taken without mercy. This is the 40th year of Argentine Star Wars. After capturing this planet, this team of soldiers is already 40 years old, and they are on standby. The colonel trained another group of recruits to replace the soldiers. He mentioned the advantages of the recruits. Veterans are screened out. The recruits have been genetically modified to have stronger stamina and physical strength. But the captain firmly believes that veterans should not be eliminated. They have experienced hundreds of battles and are invincible. The colonel decided to have a contest between recruits and veterans. He wanted to convince the captain that long-range shooting of recruits was more accurate, and for the endurance training, veterans could not outrun the recruits. Todd's endurance was already amazing, but this recruit was frighteningly fast. After running, Todd was already sweating and panting, but the recruit was as if he had never run before. Then they climbed up the chains at the same time. The captain wanted them to have a real fight, but the colonel thought it was unfair. He suggested that 2 more veterans go up, the best 3 veterans and 1 recruit duel, and eventually the veterans fell one after another. Todd persisted until the end. He blinded one of the recruits' eyes, but he also ended up like other veterans. The colonel reprimanded the recruits. The bodies of the 3 veterans were thrown away as garbage. The colonel told the captain that your soldiers should be eliminated, since this was a training accident. The further the corpses were dumped, the better. This spaceship is dedicated to dumping garbage. This planet is called a garbage planet. Todd suddenly woke up, but he was dumped on this planet like other garbage. This planet is full of garbage dumps transported from other planets. Todd saw the scrapped spaceship, blowing dozens of strong winds, yellow sand and dust flying all over the sky. After a while, Todd walked all the way, hoping that he could survive. The crosses all over the ground. There are traces of human beings. Todd walked into the spaceship and really saw humans. Suddenly, another strong wind hit. This time, there was no handrail, and Todd was blown to the bottom of the stairs. These children found him and he passed out. The humans on the garbage planet were going to have a meeting. They wanted to know why there was one more person and how he came here. The village head, Mary, she thinks that should cure the man first and let Brent and her wife take care of him. Sally looked at the injured man and gave him medicine very curiously. Her husband was sure that the man was a soldier. In the morning, Brent played with the children and woke up Todd. They tried to talk to Todd, but he didn't answer anything with indifferent face, but had a good appetite. Brent saw that he didn't have enough to eat, so he gave Todd his own food. A man walked in and asked him if he was a deserter. Todd stood up immediately and then learned from the man's question that Todd was replaced by recruits and he was not a deserter. Sally said that they left the Earth 12 years ago and did not expect to come here. They had sent out a distress signal, but it was completely useless. She felt that the people on the spaceship didn't care about their lives, so they gave up the idea of immigrating to other planets. But it was also good, because no one would invade here. No one would fight in such a shabby place. Todd kept looking at Sally in a way she had never felt before. At this moment, the colonel was about to plan a training for the recruits, and the location was Junk Planet. Todd followed Sally to learn how to grow vegetables, and suddenly a poisonous snake appeared. Sally killed it directly. She told Todd that he must be careful that be care of the snake, if was bitten, and he could not be saved. Todd had never smiled in his life, and he had never seen such a beautiful smile facing. On this day, the men went out to work, and everything in the village was picked up from here. When you come here, you must be tied with iron chains, because the strong wind will hit you all the time. When the strong wind came suddenly, everyone quickly fixed themselves on the chains, but Jimmy couldn't walk back. He was blown up by the strong wind. Brent grabbed the other end of the chain, and several people couldn't pull Jimmy. Just when Jimmy was about to die, Todd tried his best to pull Jimmy back. Everyone was happy for Jimmy, but at this time Todd played with Brent's submachine gun. Everyone looked at him being a little nervous. Then a spaceship rode across the sky. Brent told him that it was transporting garbage, and it would come every 20 days or so. He wanted Todd to give him the gun back, and Jimmy stood up to thank him, but he has the same indifferent face. At first Todd was accepted by everyone, although he always looked at Sally. Brent also found out, but he believed in his wife. Todd chopped his finger, but he didn't feel it. Sally saw him being bandaged, and she didn't know what the soldier in front of her had gone through. After asking a few words, Todd finally spoke. Sally understood the suffering of the soldiers. She hugged Todd and knew that he must have experienced a lot of hardships. Everything in life was going well, and he got the warmth between people. To thank Todd, Jimmy wants to send him a scarf. Todd's amazing training attracted all the children in the village. Every time he punches, he thinks of the bad things he has done, killing countless people. He remembered a little girl. At that time, he was changing magazines. Suddenly, a person came, and Todd also returned to reality. He pressed Jimmy on the huge machine, and Jimmy couldn't move at all. At a critical moment, Todd let go. Only then did he know that Jimmy was here to give gifts. Everyone looked at the cold-blooded and strong Todd, and Mary's impression of him changed again, and she began to worry that he would do things that would hurt the villagers. One day Komori came to play with Todd. Suddenly a poisonous snake appeared in the room to attack Komori. Todd threw his boot and asked Komori to kill it with the shoe, but he didn't do it. At a critical moment, Todd grabbed the poisonous snake, threw the poisonous snake on the ground, motioning Komori to do it himself. Then Brent and Sally came, and Brent killed the viper. For the sake of her son, Sally changed Komori's impression of Todd. Mary organized a meeting. Since Todd's various actions may threaten the safety of the whole village, they gave Todd some tools to hope that Todd would leave here. Todd put on the clothes and scarves that everyone gave and left. He hid alone in the garbage dump of the planet and couldn't help crying. After being cold-blooded for 40 years. He couldn't figure out why he was not afraid of death, why tears fell like this at this time. The Colonel's spaceship was going to the garbage planet. Brent and Sally were sleeping. Suddenly, a poisonous snake came to the bed. He protects himself. Brent felt that he had done something wrong, and he was going to the dumpster to retrieve Todd. Brent followed the chain to find Todd outside the village. He apologized to Todd, but at this moment, it was not an unmanned spaceship transporting garbage, but a combat spaceship. Todd took Brent away quickly, and the Colonel's recruits began to land on the planet, fully armed, and began exercises, killing anyone they saw. The Colonel thought that even if refugees were found, they were their enemies. The recruit sees two running humans and shoots. Brent is badly wounded, and it's too late for Todd to try to save him. Brent saw the armored vehicles driving into the village. He hoped that Todd could protect his wife and children. The captain received a report from his subordinates. The Colonel thought it was a good thing that there were human beings living on the garbage planet, and it could give the recruits some exercise. The Colonel did not send everyone to act, but sent a 3-person team. They felt that 3 people were enough to deal with the refugees. The villagers held a meeting to discuss countermeasures, and Mary was going to the peace talks. When Mary had just reached the height, before she had time to speak, she was bombarded by the recruits. Then the refugees began to fight with the recruits. The 3-person team was fully armed with advanced weapons. During the fierce battle, Todd jumped from the roof and killed a recruit. The refugees who didn't like him before looked at him. Sally and the children were chased by a new recruit, and he was killed by Todd just when the new recruit was about to make a move. At this time, the 3rd recruit finished firing a large shuttle bullet. But when it was time to change the magazine, Todd finished him, and the villagers began to clean up the scene. There were many casualties. Todd sorted out the equipment of the 3 recruits. He knew that this was only the first wave of attacks. From Todd's face, Sally knew that her husband was dead. Todd didn't speak. The opponent continued to fight. Sally wanted to know how many people were left on the other side. She wanted to gather the villagers to fight together. Todd told him that there were still 17 people on the other side. Don't need you to fight. Under the worries of Sally and the remaining villagers, Todd walked out of the base domineeringly, followed by the number 1 armored vehicle under attack. Todd adopted guerrilla tactics, killing 1 person and changing another place. The recruits patrolled downwards. Todd dragged him off. Below was the lair of poisonous snakes. As a result, 3 recruits attacked by water, and Todd killed another one, and then dived into the water, making him a dummy. The recruits who pulled the trigger and attacked in a large area were tough. After the recruits who did not fall were attracted, Todd activated the bomb on the other side. The Colonel's recruits were almost wiped out, and there were a few armored vehicles left. Todd picked up one by one, throwing bombs into an armored vehicle and then capturing an armored vehicle, using technological equipment to fight with the recruits. The last 20 Devil fighters were wiped out, and the colonel could not estimate the number of opponents, so send a few veterans to install the nuke. Since the opponent's fighting power is so strong, then destroy the garbage planet. Todd finds Sally. He knows the colonel's way. Since he can't beat the planet, he will definitely destroy the planet. He wants to take the villagers to attack the spaceship. The recruits break into the base. He is going to avenge for his blindness. The reformed recruits were still as strong as the last competition. They were powerful but foolish. In the end, Todd's life history was taken and he was killed. After installing the timed nuclear bomb, the veteran suddenly found a woman and child beside him, and then found Todd. They grew up together, trained together, and fought together. They did not talk, but saluted one after another. The useless veterans were to be abandoned, but the captain disagreed. The colonel killed him. The veterans captured the colonel and 2 of his subordinates. They met Todd, and the colonel understood that enemy is not a few divisions, but Todd, a soldier who has experienced many battles. The colonel pissed his pants. The 3 officers were thrown out of the spaceship. Todd and other soldiers started the spaceship and left the garbage planet. The colonel wants to disarm the nuclear bomb, but it is too late. After the spaceship left the planet for a while, the nuclear bomb on the garbage planet exploded, and Todd drove the spaceship away smoothly. The villagers started a new life. Todd chose a suitable planet for them. He picked up Komori and told all the soldiers that a new life had begun, and they were no longer their weapons of war. They will have their own lives, families. Todd took over Brent's son, Komori, and took good care of Brent's wife, Sally. After arriving on the new planet, they began to farm and sow together, build a house and start a family, and live a happy life.